Hello, my name is Harrison, CEO co-founder of LangChain. So LangChain is a company formed around the open source project, also called LangChain, which is a framework for building LLM applications. And so we started a little over a year ago. We've added a lot to that open source framework since then, as the space has evolved rather rapidly. And so I first want to start with a quick overview of what we have now, then a quick demo of an example LangChain app, and then a look at LangSmith, which is our observability, logging, monitoring, everything platform under the hood. Okay, so we recently released LangChain 0.1, and as part of that, we did a split of the package into into multiple packages, basically for the sake of modularity and code cleanliness. So there's a LangChain core, which has basically core abstractions and core interfaces. So these would be interfaces for vector stores, language models, things like that, as well as a runtime LangChain expression language that supports easy composition, streaming, observability, and that. And so this is important to separate out because we often see a lot of people want to write their own wrappers for their own language models, but use them within the LangChain framework. And so we put that in kind of like a more stable package in LangChain core. A big part of LangChain is the community. Unstructured and Chroma are both a big part of that. And so we have a LangChain community package with about 600 or 700 integrations. And then we've also started separating out individual integrations into their own packages, also in the name of kind of like stability for some of the larger ones. And then finally, there's LangChain, which has a lot of the chains and agents, which can be thought of as ways to accomplish kind of like particular tasks. And so those are the things in the open source package. Some of the things that we've added on top of that, we have a concept of templates, which are basically quick, easy to start reference architectures, basically, for particular applications. And they're all powered by LangServe, which is basically just an integration with Fast API, is one way to think of it, plus a custom playground, so that you can easily kind of like mess around with it and prototype with it. And then the big thing that we've been working on besides the open source is LangSmith, which is a platform which does all these things on the right here. So monitoring, it collects feedback, evaluation, you can annotate things in there. We have a playground, we have a prompt hub, which I don't see there, and some testing and debugging things. So that's a little bit about the LangChain ecosystem as a whole. The example app that I want to show off is something called OpenGPTs. And so we launched this shortly after the OpenAI Dev Day, where they previewed or where they launched GPTs, and then also the Assistance API. And so this is recreating that experience, but in an open source manner, so that you can bring your own language model, your own vector store, your own retrieval algorithm, your own tools, all of that. And so what we've done is we've set up a little preview here. There's actually two different bot types. So this is something fun as well. If you think about what's going under the hood with like the Assistance API and GPTs, it's really just one, it's one cognitive architecture that's kind of like running in a loop. It's calling the LLM to think about what to do, then it's executing those actions. Then it's calling it again, and so on and so forth. But that's just one like possible cognitive architecture. You could have other ones like a plan and solve paper, like a plan and solve architecture where you make a plan and then you go step by step. And so the power of something like this is you can kind of like plug in any cognitive architecture you want in the background. One of the fun ones we made is a Dungeons and Dragons one, which the main difference here is it actually keeps like a short-term or a within thread kind of like running memory of like the game state of Dungeons and Dragons to kind of like handle like within thread memory. Anyways, the agent type is that kind of like very simple kind of like loop. We currently turned off other agent types because they were costing too much money. And so you can easily create different kind of like GPTs, open GPTs by selecting tools that you want to use. So I'm going to select a search engine here so I can create kind of like a, like a perplexity-like experience. I'm going to name my bot demo. I can save it. I then get brought to, I can now start chatting with it. So I can say hi. And it starts streaming things back. I can then say something like, what is LangSmith? And so we can see that it starts saying that it's going to call the Tavili search tool. It tells you what the input to that tool is. It then gets back a response. You can click into it, see exactly what the response is. We find this to be really important for observability for a lot of these agents. It then starts responding, and you get an answer back here. And you can leave feedback on it. This is hooked up to LangSmith, which I'll show in a little bit. One other thing I want to do before I show LangSmith is basically just highlight that this is all kind of like, all the APIs for this are exposed as well. So the assistance API, is a very, you don't have to use this front end to take advantage of this. And so we've done a lot of things to support kind of like streaming of these events, as well as also streaming of tokens, which actually the assistance API itself doesn't currently have, I believe. So that's kind of like a demo of one of the applications that you can build with LangChain. And actually, it's actually powered by, we released a new package a few days ago called LangGraph, which is basically aimed at introducing kind of like architectures that have cycles in them. And so this is a cycle. The AI is kind of like thinking about what to do, executing it, thinking about what to do. And so most kind of like LangChains largely, you can think of it kind of like as a DAG framework, but a lot of these agents have cycles. So you kind of need a framework to create those. And so this is powered by LangGraph. We're going to be releasing some cool stuff around LangGraph as well, so very excited about that. And so if we take a look at, so this is LangSmith. There's a bunch of different things, as I said, that you can do in it. I have the Open GPTs project here. I think, so if we take a look at kind of like the logging and tracing here, I can see exactly what's going on under the hood for the most recent call that I had. So I can see that I got a message from the human, what is LangSmith? And there's kind of like 3 main important events. What you can also do is you can see like the exact tracing. So here's like the prompt template we're using, the output parser we're using, some like data formatting steps. But we also have this idea of like, these are the main events that you probably care about if you're trying to debug things. So you can click into any one and you can see kind of like exactly what the inputs are. So here we have the system message, very simple prompt. You can see the tools that it has access to, the human response, and then, this is the conversation, and then you can see the output here. You can then see that it calls this tool. You can see the input is a query, the output's this, and then you can see the final response as well. And you can do fun things like click into a playground, and you get this like exact kind of like prompt as it shows up here, so that if you want to mess around with any of the inputs and see how it responds, if it gives you an unexpected error or anything like that, you can easily debug it there. There's a lot more in LangSmith, but I'm sure we'd rather move on to more exciting things, so I will stop it here. Thank you.